Dear people of God at Trinity, even as I offer these reflections, I imagine that many of you are receiving the letter from Joanne and from me, your priest associates, about the events in Washington, D.C., offering prayers from Bishop Mark and from our beloved presiding Bishop Michael Curry, and a prayer from us. So now my reflections, my struggle to offer these reflections today. As I watched what can only be described as an attempted coup on Wednesday, I was filled with so many different emotions, troubling emotions. I've heard from many of you, and I know you are too, emotions and questions, so many questions. How did we get here, and where do we go from here? I am filled with horror. I'm horrified that we have a president of the United States who blatantly encouraged a violent subverting of the lawful votes cast by the American people. I'm horrified by the sight of Jesus 2020 flags being flown. I don't know who their Jesus is, but it's not the Jesus we follow. I am angry as I'm filled with memories of other protests that were peaceful, where the participants were treated in a far more forceful, violent way than what we witnessed at the Capitol. I'm afraid that a super spreader event just occurred on Wednesday. I join with Mike Kinman, who writes, I am heartsick with the reality that our national wounds are being laid bare so conspicuously and without a clear path forward for healing. It's exhausting. I'm exhausted. And to make it worse, I haven't even had time to revel in the outpouring of black votes in the Tuesday Georgia Senate elections whose candidates ultimately triumphed. So where do we go from here? Wednesday was scary, so scary. Wednesday we saw ourselves at our worst. Wednesday broke our hearts, and we should never forget Wednesday. But today is not Wednesday. Today we begin again. Today we begin the repairs. Today we begin building democracy. Out of these ruins, we rebuild. Today we remember that Wednesday is not who we are better. We are God's children, one and all. Today we remind ourselves that more holds us together in common than divides us as a people, a nation, a world. Today we try to walk in love. As Christ loved us, we try again and again and again. Today we remember to go home by another way than we all have traveled up to this moment in our history as a nation. We determine to walk Jesus' way of love. We will find that way through this moment, though we may have hard days ahead. Remember, 3 steps forward, 1 step back. None of us will forget what we have seen. I pray we don't forget what we have learned. I pray we open ourselves to what we still need to learn from one another and with one another. Let me end with the wise and wonderful words of my dear friend Becca Stephen, posted this morning. They are my proof that weeping may tarry for the night, as it did for many of us, but joy comes with the morning. So this is what I received this morning, just in time. I was just beginning to write about the violence and rioting on Capitol Hill this morning and how the work of justice in these days is more important than ever. I want to applaud the tradition of nonviolence in the work of justice and at how it has consistently held a place in loving the world enough to help change it. All of a sudden, the smallest bug ever started to crawl across the screen, and I got rid of it without even a thought. I did it because I could, and I didn't want it there. The irony of what I was typing and the random act of violence I inflicted was not lost on me. I still have a ways to go. You still have a ways to go, where we are living into our ideals. There's enough to be angry about for a whole life, for our whole lives. But what a sad life to live it all angry. It's a better life to keep thinking about how we can love the world and how we need to make changes to love it better. Rest in peace, tiny bug. I am continuing the nonviolent work of women's freedom in community, I'm going to do better. May we all continue to do the work of love we are called to do. And may we all do better. Amen.